Ever get hit with a wave of nostalgia so strong it feels like you have traveled back in time? I want to take you on a trip with me, back to the bustling streets of Bombay in the 1980s. A time before smartphones, before online shopping, when a simple trip to the market was a grand adventure. This story is about my grandma, a woman with a will of iron and a heart of gold, and a very specific shopping list she once gave me. It was a typical humid Bombay morning. The air was already thick with the smell of spices, exhaust fumes, and the salty sea breeze. I was probably about 8 or 9, a scruffy kid with perpetually scraped knees, more interested in chasing pigeons than running errands. My grandma, my Gigi, sat on her favorite armchair, her silver hair tied in a neat bun, fanning herself with a newspaper. She called me over, her voice firm but kind. "Listen carefully," she said, pressing a few crumpled rupee notes into my palm. "I need you to go to the market and get me 5 things. And don't you dare forget the change." The first stop was the baker. The bakery wasn't a fancy patisserie like you see today. It was a small, almost hidden shop tucked away in a narrow alley. The moment you stepped in, the warm, yeasty aroma of freshly baked bread would wrap around you like a hug. The baker, a large man with a flour-dusted apron and a booming laugh, knew everyone. I'd stand on my tiptoes to peer over the counter. "One fresh loaf of pao for my Gigi," I'd announce, trying to sound as grown-up as possible. He'd grab a loaf, still warm from the oven, wrap it in newspaper, and hand it to me with a wink. Holding that warm bread was the best feeling. It was so tempting to tear off a piece right then and there. But the fear of Aaji's stern look was stronger than my craving. With the bread secured in my cloth bag, mission number 2 began at the fruit section. This wasn't a single stall, but a whole vibrant, chaotic section of the market. The air buzzed with the chatter of vendors and the haggling of customers. Mountains of colorful fruits were piled high on wooden carts. My task was to get bananas and apples. The banana seller would have dozens of varieties, from the small, sweet and laky bananas to the larger, robust ones. I had to pick the ones that were perfectly yellow, with just a hint of green at the stem, exactly how a Gigi liked them. Then, on to the apples. In the 80s, apples felt like a luxury. They were mostly the Kashmiri kind, crisp and streaked with red and green. I'd carefully select a few, making sure they were firm and had no bruises. Each fruit was a tiny decision, a test of my budding grocery shopping skills. Next up, the vegetable street. This was the heart of the market, a sensory overload in the best possible way. The street was lined with vendors sitting on the ground, surrounded by heaps of fresh produce. The smells were intense, the sharp scent of onions, the earthy aroma of potatoes, and the fresh, green smell of coriander. Aaji's list was specific: lotus stem, cauliflower, onions, and tomatoes. Finding a lotus stem, or camel cacti, was always a mini adventure. They looked so strange, like long, muddy tubes. The vendor would slice one open to show me the beautiful, lace-like pattern inside. Then, I'd hunt for a pristine white head of cauliflower, some shiny, pungent onions, and a handful of plump, red tomatoes that were firm, but not too hard. I learned to haggle a little, mimicking the adults around me, feeling very important when I managed to get an extra onion thrown in for free. Now for the most unusual part of the list, a task that seems almost unbelievable today. Stop number 4 was the farm. Yes, you heard that right. Right across the busy street, nestled between buildings, was a small, urban farm with a couple of cows. Aaji's instruction was clear: go to the farm and get fresh milk, and don't splatter it on your face. There was a man there who managed the cows. For a few rupees, he'd let you milk one of them directly into your own container. He'd hand me a small stool and a steel pot. I'd sit awkwardly beside the cow, her warm flank smelling of hay and earth. Milking a cow is harder than it looks. It took a lot of fumbling and squeezing, but eventually, a thin stream of warm, frothy milk would start to fill the pot. And yes, more often than not, I would end up with a few splatters on my face, much to the amusement of the farmer and my own frustration. But the taste of that fresh, unpasteurized milk was unlike anything you can get from a carton. It was creamy, rich, and full of life. The final mission, number 5, was the sweetest of them all. Get a cake on the way back, Aaji had said. This was the ultimate reward. Tucked away near our home was a small bakery that made the most delicious Mawa cakes. They were simple, buttery, and incredibly moist, studded with nuts. The smell of cardamom and baked goodness would spill out onto the street. I'd use the last of my money to buy one small cake. Carrying it home was pure torture. The sweet aroma would fill my senses, and my stomach would rumble in anticipation. This was the prize for a successful expedition. Finally, I'd arrive back home, tired, a bit grimy, but triumphant. My cloth bag would be heavy with the loaf of bread, the fruits, and the vegetables. In one hand, I'd be carefully balancing the pot of warm milk, and in the other, the precious cake. I'd march into the house and present my haul to Aaji. She would inspect everything with a critical eye, checking the freshness of the vegetables, the firmness of the fruit. Then, she'd ask the final, all-important question, where is my change? I'd proudly hand over the few remaining coins. A smile would finally break across her face. Good boy, she'd say. And that, right there, was the best reward of all. Better than the warm bread, better even than the Mawa cake. It was the feeling of a job well done, of making my grandmother proud. Looking back, that simple shopping trip was so much more than just an errand. It was a lesson in responsibility, in navigating the world, in understanding the value of things. It was about human connection, talking to the baker, haggling with the fruit vendor, even connecting with the cow. It was an experience full of textures, smells, and sounds that you just don't get when you click add to cart. Those streets of Bombay taught me more than any schoolbook could. It's a memory I cherish, a snapshot of a simpler, more vibrant time. Thank you so much for joining me on this little trip down memory lane. It's amazing how a simple list of 5 items can hold an entire world of memories. What are some of your favorite childhood memories of running errands? I'd love to read them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, please give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories. See you in the next one.